The images and the stories coming out of Las Vegas are difficult for many adults to wrap their mind around. It's especially hard for children who might feel worried or perhaps even threatened by what they're seeing.
For more on how to handle that, we are joined live in studio by psychologist Dan Peters. Dan, welcome back. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
I walked in Monday. The first thing my daughter said is, because I was supposed to fly with the Blue Angels and I didn't. She's like, "How was the flight?" You know? And it took me off guard because I didn't really have a chance to plan ahead, which I like to do usually. But I was honest with her and just said, you know, a lot of people got hurt and Dad had to be at work. But to me, it was important that she led the conversation.
Exactly.
Is that key?
Exactly. That's
right?
key.
And
That's
I answered her questions.
Yeah, you reacted well without preparation. I think what we really need to do as parents is focus on our own emotions and our own energy around this. Our kids are picking up on a lot. They're picking up on us. They sense us. They hear us talking. They see what we're watching on the news. And I think it's really key. First, we focus on how do we manage our own emotions, because just like when they're toddlers and they fall and they look to us to see whether they're okay or whether they should cry, it doesn't change throughout life.
So you're saying keep yourself in check.
Right.
You're also saying maybe put your children in a bit of a bubble when it comes to turning on the radio or turning on the television.
Big bubble, particularly when the kids are younger. We really need to manage, you know, the media's coming at all levels. They hear it just in the other room when we press a little video. So with our younger kids, they don't need to know what the world is really like yet. Right. You know, they will find out. Even our middle-aged kid, our older kids,
they'll find out when they're emotionally ready to find out. Is that what you're saying?
Well, hopefully. I think these days a lot of times they find out before, they find out at school.
Yeah.
But we can't assume that our kids are ready to process it. Some kids, it just goes right over their head, and I think it's great when it goes right over their head because they're not ready. Other times they're going to come to us because they're going to hear things that are really disturbing or see these images that are disturbing, and that's when I think we need to follow their lead, see where they are, and just answer the question enough to just satisfy their curiosity, because we want them to be able to move on and feel secure in this world.
So, yeah, my kids haven't asked, so I shouldn't say anything.
Well, you know, I think it's a judgment call. You know, you might sometimes, especially if they're going to hear it at school and they're a little older. I think your kids are a little younger, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think you could let it go.
Okay.
I think sometimes we need to prep our kids when they're at that, you know, 4th, 5th, middle school and beyond age. Like, hey, you're going to hear some stuff that happened at school. There was some pretty sad things that happened. Right. And then, you know, again, we just gauge it to their interest level and where you think they are with their maturity.
So then what about parents at home who have maybe teenagers who are on social media, who have the images and can hear the 911 calls and the dispatch? Let's say, just for example, they said, "Mom or Dad, I feel anxious." How do you respond to that? Do you say, "Oh, there's nothing to be anxious about"? What's the appropriate way to handle something?
No, I think you need to validate the feelings and then ask, hey, let's talk. You know, what are you thinking about? What are you hearing? And I think, again, it's trying to provide a venue. Our own anxiety sometimes either spins out of control and runs with it, or, oh, no, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Again, it's going with their cadence and where they're at to try to answer. Yeah.
You want to have a positive spin on it too, right? I mean, I don't know if spin's the right word, but you have to have a positive outlook, saying the world's not as bad as this one particular event.
I think you have to have a realistic and then optimistic. I think you got to validate the reality of what has occurred, and for the kids that are older and going to concerts and know people who've lost people, you got to start with what's real. And then we got to talk about, yeah, these are incidents, and they're rare incidents. You got to go with, you know, statistics, and then try to get them refocused on the optimistic part of our world.
My little boys somehow heard about the hurricanes, and they were very concerned about the hurricanes. And I was able to say, that'll never happen here. With a shooting like this, I can't promise that, and that's where I'm having difficulty.
Yeah, and I think it is easier with the hurricanes. We're doing the same thing in our house. I think we go with probability and statistics, right? Like, there's a chance that people can get struck by lightning and win the lottery. The odds are very, very, very low, and one of the things of fighting worry and anxiety for people of all ages is to talk about probability. And put things into perspective. It's highly, highly unlikely.
I also talk about distance. I say this is 3,000 miles away, farther away than Grandma and Grandpa. Like, I try to sort of, you know, and my boys are very small, so that they understand that.
Yeah, but we're all one. You know, this is one country, right? And
But I think that would be too much for them. I mean, it's funny. My older one is very sensitive. My little one is probably going to be okay under any circumstance. So it's also kind of knowing what you're dealing with.
Exactly. Individualized for each child.
Dan, thank you.
Good to have you here.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.